All right. It says live.
Yep, we are now recording.
All right. Awesome. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
All right.
So it says briefly summarize this case. So here's my summary. It's November 2012. People in Gaza are living in a war zone. There are frequent air raids where rockets explode and life is disrupted by loss of life, loss of property, loss of employment, and school closures. People are on alert for danger. At night, they sleep in stairwells for protection from the bombs. There is a lack of food and water. People in Gaza feel that they are the target and that Israel is their enemy, trying to eradicate them. There are 1.7 million people living in 140 square miles. And then I converted that and say that's 12,143 people per square mile. And there have been 2 major assaults in the past 4 years. Osama Kurtom lives in Gaza, and 4 years ago, which would be 2008, he lost a son, age 7, named Ahmed, in the first assault. In this recent assault, his son, Mahmoud, was injured. One son wants a gun to kill Israelis for having killed his brother. The family keeps the name of Ahmed alive. They named another son Ahmed and have a photo of the first Ahmed that was altered to show him aged and in graduation robes from college. Osama lost his job due to health and survives on international assistance. He has had 2 kidney operations. They have extended family nearby.
Awesome. All right. I'm really bad at these names, but
Okay.
All
so
right.
Now we'll go with your summary.
So I said this case study is about a family who's in a war zone in Gaza. Mohammed, anyways, age 7 is one of the sons. He was hit by a piece of rocket shrapnel that went past his ribs and lodged into his lungs. This is not the first time this family has experienced similar things during war. Not even 4 years earlier, his older brother, Ahmed, age 7 at the time, had a very similar experience. In the end, his brother passed away. Although this is a very tragic experience for the family, the father expresses how it is a common occurrence because it is a war zone. By living in a war zone, they know these things will and do happen. The family protects themselves during air raids by sleeping in stairwells. When the ceasefire is announced, everyone is overjoyed. Mama is running around the yard. Because he is so happy. He is ecstatic to hear that school will resume the following Monday. The family is still devastated by the loss of their son, so much so that they name one of their sons after him. They're not trying to replace him, just not forget about him. The father points out that Mahmoud may forget about his own injuries and move past them, but he will never forget about the loss of his brother.
Good.
There were a few things that I really liked that you pointed out in yours. I can't remember.
That's okay.
But yeah, there was like a few things I'm like, oh, I should have added that, but that's why we do this together.
Yeah, so we'll merge it. You could take what you want out of that.
All right, awesome.
That sounds good. And then when I see it, I'll read what you did and then I will modify it.
Okay. And for the rest of them, I think maybe we can just like
take turns.
That one's really hard to just like discuss what happens, but I think the rest of the points we can just discuss like what we felt.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, awesome. You go first this time.
All right, awesome. So for the principles or concepts that I was thinking, I kind of like based it on the typology model. I was thinking of how like the family, I feel like if we wanted to, we could fit them into any of the models that we've studied. But this one, I don't know, there was just like a lot of different things that I really liked. I didn't have the chance to go through and like analyze which of the typology categories they were under. So that was like my next thing that I was going to do. But I feel like overall they, let's see. Sorry. Like trying to remember. They
just read your notes and comment as you go. It's fine.
Okay. So like their resistance resources and their appraisal of the events, which I guess is kind of like the ABCX model as well. I feel like they kind of their appraisal of the events, how they analyzed it, they like how I read in my summary, the father looked at the situation as like, yeah, this is difficult, but many people experience these things and we can expect it. I feel like that's also kind of a resistance resource, but having others around them that are experiencing similar things, I think, is also a resistance resource. Also, I was thinking of, like the coping responses and the problem solving. The father, like the things he experienced, like the medical issues. It's not necessarily a positive coping response, but that was kind of his initial coping response. But then their like problem solving, how they were able to look forward and be excited about the future.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When you say his initial coping response in relation to the kidney thing, what I didn't follow what you were saying.
Sorry. Like his when the son passed away, how wasn't that after his son passed away that he had like the surgeries and the sorry, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, he had some kind of a surgery
Okay.
for his kidneys, and I believe it was after the son had passed away.
So I'm like wondering if that was like stress, like not that it was a coping response necessarily. I don't know how to express
Well,
it.
it can be
But
devastating when you lose a child. It could,
yeah,
your health
for sure.
be affected. So that the kidneys were probably already weak and probably already
Yeah.
had an issue, but that kind of kicked in. You know, it made it worse.
Yeah. So that's like kind of I don't know. I needed to spend more time on this one, but I sorry if that was like really jumbled, but I will
Yeah.
more.
So
But what was yours?
the way you're using the word coping response is a little new to me. I don't. To me, coping is how you how you shape things, how
Yeah,
you, and so to me that seems like more of his lack of
that
cope.
is true.
He was more like being overwhelmed and just
Hmm.
um, he wasn't really coping. He was just how would you say, negatively coping. Was that like that'd be a mal?
Yeah. So it's almost like he didn't have the resources to have a proper coping response to be able like to cope properly.
Yeah, there could have been a lack.
Anyways, sorry. Yeah, I like that. I,
Yeah, this is
I like
very casual, so let's not be too formal.
yeah,
Let's,
for sure.
yeah, don't
All right.
apologize or anything.
So what are some principles or concepts that you
So here's what I wrote. I put, and it says here that the family had experienced multiple stressors. So that's the first thing. I noticed that when we use some of the models initially, they were very simple,
yeah.
like the ABCX model. It says like, what is the stressor event? And then when you go to double ABCX, then obviously there's more than one stressor going on there. So anyway, it depends what model you want to use. But if you're going to focus on one stressor event, you have to pick one, and there's a lot to pick from, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the principles that are helpful here would be to use a model. Pick like the ABCX model is a helpful tool. So in that model, there's A, the stressor or stressful event. B, both resources and responses. C, cognitions, which are the beliefs and realizations during and after. And then X, the kind of the total experience thing. So let's pick a stressor using this model. If you want, we could, if you choose not to, don't worry about it. But let's do it for this moment here. So the stressor, let's say, is the death of Ahmed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's an event. The resources and responses. Um, it was hard for him to, you know, I think your point about the kidney failure is related to the fact that he passed away. So his responses to the stressor were not positive. They affected his health, and in fact, probably became other stressors.
Yeah.
as a result, like losing his job because his kidneys fail and he can't function and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, there's this kind of domino effect of things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cognitions and beliefs and realizations during and after. I think he and the family want to keep his memory alive. So that's why they named another child Ahmed. They had him aged and digitally in the photograph so that they could see that, he lived his life and he graduated.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that their belief process and realizations. In another part of my notes, I made some comments about that. I'll make a quick comment about it too, but I'll save it. We'll get to it later. I think I can't help but refer to it. And that is, I think they were saving some of this for a couple of reasons. One is, is it the hope, having this picture, is it the hope to inspire your other children to go on and get an education because your brother wasn't able to do it? Look how lucky you are. You live and you can go and you can do it,
Yeah.
That's one way to take it. Another way to take it is that they just can't let go of the fact that they lost him. And maybe they even want to create hate toward the Israelis by saying, look what they did. They took this away from us and not ever let it go. Yeah, I don't know. I can't judge their heart, right?
Yeah.
But that's a possibility of their cognitions or their thoughts. We don't know what their thoughts are. I'm not a mind reader, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know what their cognitions are unless they tell us, by something they say.
Yeah.
Okay. And then total experience using the same model, A, B, C, X, would be, I don't know if that I have a clear summary of it. It is, I think there's, I don't know that they have it totally resolved. Because they will always feel like, even if we have another child, we haven't replaced Ahmed, right? He said, it doesn't matter if I have a baby every day, right? Baby every day, I'll never replace him.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because there's a belief then of the value of that one person, that he is unique, irreplaceable. So anyway, that's part of his cognitions, right? Of the value of that child. But I almost feel like his cognitions overvalue that child, because what about the other Ahmed? Isn't he important? And what about Mahmoud? Isn't he important too? And why is there so much emphasis on this brother? It's like he just dominates the thoughts and feelings and the cognitions, right?
I actually have that written as one of my risk or dangers, that the family almost focuses on him too much and not enough on
right. It goes back to that piece that we did or episode with Zach, remember? And everybody was, Zach is going to write music, and Zach, everything was about Zach, and the whole thing revolved around him. It's kind of that thing is happening with Ahmed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for sure. All right.
So let me move to the next thing. This is not real convenient to be doing profiles. Okay, there was also, I thought it was helpful when we learned about topology models, like being resilient, regenerative, rhythmic, or traditionalistic. And those axes there gave a way to analyze kind of what the status of the family was. I don't think we'd have time to do detailed analysis and give an example of every model, right? But just refer to them as being helpful tools. I don't know that I want to necessarily apply the tool right now, but I think it was good to know, what it is what the axes are for resilience, for regenerative being regenerative, rhythmic, and traditionalistic. And I will touch on that later on how that can be helpful to the families. The sources, and here's was something else I learned from the material we studied this semester, was that the sources of demands and the sources for resources can be the same thing, but not at the same time. So, for example, individual family member can be a resource, but could also be a source of a demand. So, like Osama, just to use an example, is a demand in a sense that he has this kidney failure. So he needs help. He needs resources to help him. He needs doctors. He needs medicine. He needs dialysis. He needs various resources to keep him going. On the other hand, he may be a strength to the family in just being there as dad and pulling them together and encouraging them, in being maybe a source of faith for his brother, who Allah, I'm not sure how to say it, but it looked like L with A after it, but his brother, he, because here's what I was thinking, that the brother may, when things go wrong and you have a loss and people are dying or becoming ill and you don't experience that, but they do, sometimes you feel guilty for the fact, like, why am I surviving and why are they dying, and so I think Osama being there can be like a strength for his brother, Allah. That's what I was thinking there. And okay, so anyway, the other sources and of resources or demands are, besides an individual family member, is the family unit itself, which could extend to in-laws, or in this culture, I believe that Muslims can have 4 wives, so it could include other spouses, which we don't usually talk about, but that could be. Yeah. I was listening to NPR one time, this is kind of an aside, but it was about polygamy in Africa. And the women that were being interviewed saw it as a very positive thing because it gave them a break with the children care. They could have the other wife watch the kids, and it gave them a chance to go work and earn money or go do things that they needed to be recreative instead of just bearing the burden all the time. It was almost like a friend and a sister to help you rather than a competitor. So I thought that was interesting. So other cultures see things in different ways, and that's how they thought.
My husband's from Haiti, so different cultures definitely see things differently.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and then the things were individual family, the family unit, or the community. Those seem to be the sources for either demands or resources. Anyway, it just gives you a hint where to look for things.
Yeah.
And I thought that the comment in one of the lessons was that how well a family meets demands of the stressor will determine whether or not they go into crisis.
Yeah.
So if they meet it well, then they cope, they go okay. But if they meet poorly, it's crisis time, and then there's another phase of the model, right?
Yeah, there's lots of models, lots of.
Right. Yeah, and I think that was the FAAR model that kind of took it by phases, whether it was adaptive or what phase that was in. Anyway, I'm done with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Do you want me to go to the next one, or do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go for the next one. I feel like I've been talking a lot, but I'll do it. Take turns, right? Okay, this is a list of relevant risks, dangers the family and its members face. So I put bombs, death, food shortages, contaminated water. Let me back up a second. That contaminated water came from, I went to another website for the United Nations, and there was a lot of information about Gaza and what was going on there. It just helped me get a better picture of it. So there wasn't a whole lot of mention of water being contaminated when we were reading our stuff, but that's part of the problems that are going on. So anyway, injuries, funerals for children and people that are not supposed to be dying, and home demolitions, evacuations. Of course, the demolitions would be like, okay, your house has just been bombed and you can't live there anymore. We're condemning the property. You got to move out. You're evacuated, and we're going to destroy the house because it's not safe to be in there. Lack of psychological support, the dense population, disease, emotional issues like fear, hurt, anger, guilt, depression. Women, children, and disabled people are among the most vulnerable. And according to the UNWRA Gaza director, his name is Matthew, looks like Smalley, SCHMALE, quote, he says this: should the UNRWA's work be further and significantly disabled, increased poverty, stress and tension can lead people to rely on negative coping mechanisms such as physical or verbal violence, child marriage, divorce, school dropouts, and social unrest, close quote. So that was my list.
Awesome.
How about yours?
So I said physical danger. They're definitely in that. Like you listed all, like a lot of things that put them at physical danger. Something that I was thinking is that the children are at risk for that they may not experience a normal or healthy childhood, because I feel that when they're in these crisis situations, they're in survival mode, not really child mode in a way. So
right.
they don't really get to experience that by the sounds of it. Mohammed, I can't say their names. Anyways, he's at risk for not fully recovering from his injury and possibly having lifelong problems because of his injury. The father and his health risks, he could be even more at risk because of his son passing away and just not really, seems like he hasn't really fully worked through the emotions of that, which could put him at more health risk because of that. And Ahmed, the younger one, the family is kind of at risk if they continue to focus on the older son that's passed away, because I feel that if they don't, that they potentially could be at risk for not moving forward and kind of living in the past and not focusing on their children that are here and now.
Right.
So, yeah, what I had. All right, we ready for the next one?
Yeah, you go ahead and take it.
Okay, so relevant opportunities. I said, like, just focusing really on the family, that they might have the opportunity to draw closer because of this, like the things that they're going through, whether it's like the war or their son passing away or mom. And how do you say his name? How do you say it? Mahmoud? Okay, Mahmoud. There we go. Because of his injuries, they could all just work together and draw closer because of that.
Yeah.
Let's see. I didn't spell that right, so that's sorry. My turn to read. Okay. They have the opportunity now that the ceasefire has gone out, that they're able to experience more normalcy as a family, that they can go out and the kids can play and, you know, have those good times as a family. So they have the opportunity to turn to the community because they've experienced similar, if not the same things that they have them. And they can come together as a community and experience comfort or be able to comfort those in the community. And opportunities to grow. So like emotionally grow, I think maybe spiritually grow, and just progress from here, because they can't really change what's happened, but really just move forward. So
yeah, it's interesting.
where I work, they use the word opportunities as an alternative word to problems. You know, like, so rather than say, now these are the problems, they say, here's our
Yeah.
opportunities. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of a code word.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's some that I thought also. Let's see. I should have printed this, but anyway, it is what it is. So Dr. Is it Michael or Mikhail? I don't know. Shammai, the Israeli author, had another article at the very end that was like optional material to read. And when I went into it, there was a lot of things that were highlighted, and it was actually focused on parents who have lost children and the opportunity it is for them to reshape their view of what this means. And so I just put this here. It says, when a family member is lost, there's an opportunity for reconstruction, quote, by creating a meaningful life without the person they lost. Okay. There is an opportunity for this family to define the meaning of Ahmed's death. Will the altered photo inspire siblings to pursue education, or will it inspire hate and retaliation towards the Israelis? There is the opportunity to look for a new home away from Gaza with a sponsor in another country. As I read more about Gaza and the density of population and the awful things, I would get out of there. That would be me, you know.
Yeah.
So I would say there's an opportunity. I think they have a lot of reason to get out, and I know they're surrounded, and you know there's a lot of things that might prevent that. But there is international sponsorship and ways to you know, things to explore anyway, and see if they can't get out, because it would certainly, the more people that could get out of there, the better it would be for the people that stay.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah. Good. Do you want to go to the next one?
Sure. It says, note important relationship considerations. So I really didn't think that there was a good fleshing out of who his wife was, or who his wives were. And that might be a little bit of a intentional in the author's part, because I think he's trying to create some sympathy for the Palestinians.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Anyway, the other thing that was not mentioned is, why are the Israelis really bombing the place? You know, it's because Hamas is considered a terrorist organization, and they're hiding in a densely populated area. And unfortunately, all those people now stand in the way. But that's not what this is about. So, all right. So the other relationship is that he had 3 sons. He has Ahmed, who is the first one that died. There is Mahmoud, who was injured. There is Ahmed, the second one, who is going to be almost a baby, but maybe he's, you know, 1 or something. He has got a couple of daughters that were unnamed. And he also has a brother, Alaa, who owns a construction supply company. So those were the family relationships that I saw.
Awesome. Yeah, I was wondering about the wife too, because they didn't really say anything. Like if she's still living, or I don't think they even said that, did they?
There was a reference to the wife doing something, so
okay.
So I'm thinking she was still alive.
Okay. So I guess like we just didn't really hear about like their
they
relationship
really played it
or
down.
anything. So that one, I don't know. I just want to know more. I want to know more to this. And then the other like relationship that I I'm curious to know more about, and I think it's important for the family to think about, is the younger Ahmed, and the role that they expect him to play in the family. Because although they say like we're not trying to replace the older brother and things, I mean, if you name a child after another child, you know, it's almost you want them to live the things that your older child never got to live. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I just wonder, like,
I'm having two different thoughts about it, but I definitely agree with what you're saying.
what's your thoughts?
Well, the other
Tell me.
thought is that sometimes, and it's not that uncommon, when families years ago, if you do family history, you see that women would lose their babies. And so it was pretty common if they really wanted to have some baby named Emily, they would name the next one Emily.
That is true, yeah.
Or it wasn't that uncommon. And
Yeah.
and also, you know, if you've been named after somebody, you don't necessarily feel like you're replacing that person.
Yeah.
You may just feel like, well, they had some good traits or qualities, or they were loved and cared about, and they want to be remembered. You could be named after an uncle, you could be named after a grandmother or whatever. Anyway, I don't think it takes away your identity. So that was my kind of thought about it.
That's true. I didn't like, because culturally, kind of like in America now, it's like that would be kind of seem kind of weird if somebody like named somebody after their child who'd already passed away. But if you name them after an aunt or uncle or anyone else, it's not uncommon, or
Yeah.
so.
I think that maybe strikes us this way because the names are like Arabic names, and so they seem like, why would you name somebody?
Like two of them. Yeah.
That's really out there, you know. But his name Joseph, or if his name, you know, then it's like, oh yeah, Joe, that's good, that's okay.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. It's good. Yeah, those are the ones that I was really, I don't know, the ones I was wondering about. And
there could be other extended relationships.
yeah,
The fact that he had a kidney issue tells me he must have gone to a doctor, so there could be a relationship there. I don't know how close it was, but I don't know how many relationships you want to, you know, mention, but I think the family relationships are what we're looking for here.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna go to the next one. So I kind of sticking with the typology model, I was thinking of the adaptation phase of the typology model, but then I'm like, it seems kind of complicated. After I like tried to explain the original one, I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to go through all of that, or if we should focus on maybe different coping strategies, or like how you were talking about, like, did the family really get to a crisis point? I would say so if the father lost his job and things like that. But I think one coping strategy that would be beneficial for the family would be family therapy. I don't even know if they offer that there, you know, or if that's something, but I think it would be beneficial to the family to really work through their feelings and work through their son and brother passing away. And I think that would be good, but I don't know if that's really available there, but we're just giving scenarios. So I think family councils would be beneficial as well. I think just anything that allows the family to communicate, I guess. I think if they're able to counsel together and really, especially now that the war, that it's in like no fire, what is it called? Anyways, that they that a family council would help them to move forward and make plans as a family of like, hey, like, do we need to rebuild our home? How are we going to do this? Or like, do we need to, how are we going to progress or get out of this situation, whatever it may be. So yeah, those are some coping strategies I thought of.
Very good. Me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I like the ones that you mentioned, and I put, if I try to work trying to cope with the buttons on my other computer. Okay, so anyway, mood logs I thought would be a good idea. Osama had multiple stressors, so he could create a mood log for each of his stressors. So these could include like the death of son Ahmed, the injury of his son Mahmoud, his kidney failure, the loss of his jobs, and bombs. So he could do a mood log on some of those. The other thing they could do is mindfulness, and to make it a little more tangible, I said just do 20 minutes a day of mindfulness. And just the process of doing that and practicing it, it would free them from some of the fears of the future and the anger of the past, and it would give them a respite by bringing their thoughts and focus into the present. So that's the objective. You know, if I'm sure they've got plenty of things they're angry about and they're afraid of. So that would be a good thing to have 20-minute break every day.
Yeah.
Family councils, I also noted with this kind of a spin, I think they could use the council to talk about safety concerns, how to prevent and how to avoid getting hurt. So they also need to address the concerns of their son who wants a gun to kill Israelis. And that's kind of a two-phase thing, is what the gun issue is related to the anger. So they need to talk about the anger that he's feeling. And they need to talk about safety to himself, having a gun, and the dangers related to that and to those around him. So then the next area is a comment about prayers. The Muslim family will pray 5 times a day. And prayer is kind of interesting. I think for Latter-day Saints, we think in terms of communication. I don't know if Muslims think of it that way. I think of it more like a kind of a duty that they do. And they may not even believe that I don't know what they believe. You have to ask a Muslim what they believe. But I think that it's more like something they recite.
Yeah.
So they have to recite it, and you know, they've done their duty, and then the prayer is done, that kind of thing. So the fact they do it 5 times a day, though, can help them to have structure and stability in their lives, and it creates a feeling of normalcy, which is really needed to cope with in the disruptions of war. Just having a routine of something gives them that stability and feeling of normalcy.
I like that.
So that's why I see it as kind of a coping, you know, a coping tool.
Yeah.
And it's even a coping tool for people who, you know, see prayer differently, but it still helps us, you know, in various ways.
Yeah. That's neat. I like that. I like how you mentioned structure too, because I think like along with prayer, even they could just create a structure within their home that could help them have that normalcy and have a structured routine. Because I think a lot of time during stressors, those kind of go out the window. But I think that would.
Right. You know, we read about vain repetition, so maybe we're a little too judgmental about other people's ways of praying. But the fact they make the time to do it is a great indicator of sincerity and commitment, and that's worth something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that, you know, as a Latter-day Saint, I think more of prayer is communication. Although, you know, it's a little bit one way too much. You know?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm done.
All right. Do you want to go to the next one?
Sure. Okay. Keep hitting the wrong buttons here. All right, recommendation to supporting involved parties. So I thought of Osama's brother, Alaa, may need some counseling. I think I mentioned that. Often when people close to you are suffering and you are not, you may feel guilty that you have that you've been spared, that things are going better for you. Allah might need some help working through some of those feelings. So that's one of those support people that might need some help. That's all I had, actually. I haven't developed it though.
That's okay. So for this one, I had some like recommendations. I think people can just listen. They those around them or, like their family members, but I mean they may be experiencing similar things. I think the involved parties or supporting parties, they can help find temporal resources. I know that can be difficult at the time, but it's just asking for recommendations. So I think they can help with those temporal things that they may have lost during the war and just be there for them. I think during trials, we all just need people to be there for us and however way it may be. So,
yeah. I thought it was interesting. He had some kind of a supply company, and I didn't know if it was construction supplies or what it was exactly that Allah had. But certainly, if he wants to help out with supplies and reconstruction, that would be great help that he could do. But the question, I think, was what recommendations do we have to the people doing the support? And I guess maybe it would be not to like give more than you can really give. Use some judgment in how much you give. Be sure you're giving from strength and not from weakness, I think is healthy. There used to be a sister who was a wife of our branch president when we lived in Ohio, and she said that she always felt she had an empty bucket and then would be asked to do more, and there just wasn't anything there sometimes. And so I suggested that she just not give from that bucket, go to the other bucket and give from your strengths, not from your weaknesses. And it's like the scripture that says not to run faster than you have strength.
Yeah. And I think especially in this time, like temporal resources, I think it's important that they that others don't give what they don't have necessarily. I was thinking of an experience on my mission that someone that was getting ready to get baptized, he had huge apprehensions about tithing because his mom was actually a member of the church, we learned at that time. And she paid like everything that she had to the church. Like she just kept giving money, saying it was tithing dollars, but like it was way more than 10% that they ended up like becoming homeless because of it. And like, I don't think, I think they need to be wise in their giving of resources. So,
right.
I think, it's good. All right. We ready for the next one?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. So additional resources that would provide or suggest, I think it would be beneficial for the community to come together and maybe create like a support group. I think talking, I'm a big advocate for communication. So I just think that would be such a great support for the family and for others in the community. I also think journaling would be great.
Good idea.
I'm a big advocate for journaling, but I'm terrible at it. But I think journaling would help. I think especially the dad, he just seems, I guess maybe because that's who we focused on. I'm sure the mom struggled too, but like the dad really seemed to struggle with like his emotions of his son passing away. And I think if he's able to write it down and just work through those things, I think it would help him. So those are, what about you?
I wrote down, let's see. We're in the additional resources, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the population of Gaza is very educated. This is what I learned from the UN site, that the population is educated, but the unemployment is really high. And so this means that there are talented and skilled people who could help the family if they will share their time. And some of these may be social workers, counselors, and therapists. So there might be a way to tap into this. I've been unemployed before, and it's amazing when you go to these networking groups and you see all these talented people, just kind of their talent is not used.
Yeah.
They're unemployed right now, and they just need to make the connection. But so if there's a lot of these kinds of people floating around in Gaza, maybe they could help the family, Also, I found on the website that Gaza has an artist that creates cartoons, and they're funny cartoons, they're comics, and so women will go to her. It's a woman who's the artist, and they learn how to express themselves through cartoons, and so it can be therapeutic, particularly for the women who do not have a strong political voice in Gaza. So it gives them a chance to express, kind of their whatever they feel, anger or the silliness of people or whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing is there must be a mosque or two or many, and you would think that they would have friends there and some kind of a social network there, and they need to plug into that. Of course, there's health clinics and hospitals, and they did use the hospital a little bit with Mahmoud's injury to his ribs, and then also with the kidney issues. I imagine he had, I don't know, he has to probably go for dialysis or something. They might try using something called GoFundMe, which sometimes people use to earn money for a cause or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think out of the box, like if they're going to get out of Gaza, maybe they need to do a GoFundMe to help get to Germany or get to the United States or get to Egypt. That's nearby,
Yeah, it's true. It might be beneficial. I like that. That's
cool. So maybe a GoFundMe would be a good thought. And then the United Nations Relief Workers Association is one of the organizations there providing international aid. So they might, although they're hurting, they don't have enough money. They say this is what we need, and they're not getting it. They get only maybe like 30% of what they ask for. But hey, find out what they can do and connect and maybe volunteer and help them, and because there's some strengths that they could give and some benefits they could receive.
For sure.
So maybe that's it too, service. Just the fact that they could go out and give service to others would be something for them to think about too.
It could be like we always feel good about ourselves when we do service too.
Right. That's right. We don't feel so helpless.
Yeah. Well, good. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Any other thoughts?
I'll give you the website for that United Nations. It's unrwa.org.
Okay, one more time. Sorry.
UN, like United Nations. RW for Relief Workers A Association. So UNRWA.org.
Okay.
That's what that means.
Cool. Yeah, I just entered it in, so look at that. And then if you just email me what you have, and then I'll make it one cohesive
incorporate it
piece. Let's see. If I get it to you by noon tomorrow, will you be able to look it over?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll try I'm thinking I'm gonna do it tonight because my daughter's asleep, and which hope she stays that way. So
okay.
Yeah. But we'll plan on noon tomorrow. That'll give me a little bit more time in case she wakes up or something. But we'll plan for that, and I will email it to you. Actually, I shared that Google Drive thing with you. That'll probably be the easiest. I emailed it to you.
Okay.
And then I'll just go in, and you can look at it as I'm making changes and entering things.
Okay.
And then I guess I'll just email you once I feel that it's good enough for wherever we want it, and then you can look over it, change anything you want. I won't be affected. So.
All right. And my telephone is an iPhone, so if you want to either call or message, you can do that as well.
Okay.
You could say, I've sent it, go look, or whatever. I can look as soon as you send it. I know it's conference weekend, but to be honest with you, I go to the priesthood session with school and everything. I'm just buried. So I've got to get school done, and I watch the recorded version. So
it's good. They say the same things in the recorded one as before. So it's good.
Right. So I'm going to stop the broadcast on this
Okay.
side. And let's see. I hope that doesn't stop us. It's just the recording that's stopping.